let time go lightly when I'm here with you. I let time go lightly when the day is through. I keep a watch on time when I've got work to do. But I let time go lightly with you. A time for breaking ground and sowing seed, and yet we give up our sunshine so we can buy what we need.
Hi, welcome back to Conversation with History. My name is Greg Norman. We're going to be talking today with Millie McArthur, a longtime Ortonville resident. And Millie, you've got quite a story to tell. You're a Brooklynite, New York.
Yes.
You went to the streets of Brooklyn to
lower Brooklyn, way down in Coney Island.
all the way down to Coney
Almost to Long Island, right on the beginning of Long Island.
Well, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about New York, but you went from New York, from the streets of New York, to the cornfield, so to speak, of Ortonville. That had to be quite a change.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I guess to start with, tell us a little bit about New York.
Well, New York, when you're born in New York, in Brooklyn, I should say, mostly, and you do your thing, and you fight, and you argue, and then you have to learn. You go to school, and you get yourself a job, and you get on the subway. I remember several times getting on the subway. I worked at the Grand Central Palace, going through Grand Central to get to the elevators. I had to get off at Times Square to get the local, to get to the Grand Central building, 49th Street. Well, I have to get off the next stop. So I would get in after everybody got in, because we all get off at the Express, and here you're trying to get to the local. So you get in there, you're the last one, you take your purse in front of you, and you stand there and let the conductor come, and he'll push you in the rest of the way, so you can get out at the next stop.
Like our sardine cans, kind of popping.
Oh yeah, But you live it, this is every day. But I walk down Times Square, and you can see John Carradine with some women, and I walked by Joe Louis and his wife in Grand Central one time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
I was wondering where all these people were running. See, when I go to work, I walk straight straight ahead. You don't look sideways. You've got to go to work.
Get where you're going. And you must have went to a PS school, am I correct?
Oh yeah, definitely. Right across the road from the apartment house that I lived in.
One thing I liked about New York is we never had a school name like Valentine Elementary or something. It was always public school, PS 105.
PS 105, or a high school, the Utrecht High School, I remember, was one, and now I can't think of the others. It's just trying to get too much in my brain.
Now, on those streets, you talked a little bit about playing handball and stickball, some of those kinds of things
Yeah.
as a kid.
That's the section that I played. Well, a lot of times I played with the firemen too, because when they'd have few hours, off, we'd play handball, because that was real handball.
Explain what real handball is.
Well, it's just like they do now, because now they use the buildings, But this is a one big wall, and you got a regular court size. You use the sidewalk for court size, and you hit the ball with your hand, and it's a hard ball.
For those who don't know anything about handball, consider it to be kind of much like maybe racquetball with your hands.
Just like the racquetball.
Except now you're using hands instead of...
This was using hands. I've slid on my knees several times trying to get the ball. You ought to see my knees.
Ugly.
Yeah.
Ugly. Now, you came to Ortonville in about what, mid-1940s?
Yeah, 1944.
And you met your husband in New York?
My husband and I were married in New York, 42.
What brought you
here? He went overseas.
He's in service.
And I thought I might as well come out here, because we live in, furnished apartments in Brooklyn, you know, the old brownstone houses.
Sure.
Well, that's what we were living in, and I thought it was about time that I moved.
But why? I mean, was there family here?
But my mother and father was here. Yeah.
Oh, okay. How did they?
No, not here. They were in Brooklyn. They were in Long Island.
Okay.
They moved to Long Island.
I mean, how did you end up in Ortonville? All places.
Well, Lyle's folks, my husband's folks, lived in Ortonville.
Oh, okay.
And right downtown, next to the hardware.
Okay.
That little house there. But they originally came from Hadley Hills.
Oh.
Have you heard of the Pinnacle?
Yes, I have.
Well, we used to have more fun going up and down that Pinnacle with the Jeep. Not going up. We belonged to the old Veterans Organization. That was back then. And my husband, we always had an Army Jeep. We didn't have toys. Well, this was our toy. And then, of course, he would get a trailer. He'd hook it onto the Jeep, and then around September, we'd have a hayride. And all the fellas and women, we'd all go riding around the country, and my husband knew all about Hadley Hills. And that's how come we got to the Pinnacle. We'd stop there to have each one would have to say a toast before we moved on.
Again, for those who don't know, maybe you can explain what the Pinnacle was.
Yeah, well, Pinnacle is a hill. It's a tall hill, which used to have a snow, how would I call it, a snow cabin.
Okay.
It was a perfectly round cabin, and right slap in the middle was a beautiful fireplace.
Wow.
It was a beautiful spot. It was a beautiful spot. I think the state.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But somehow it got burned down. Well, now I think it's getting kind of flattened out, but I have nothing against motorcycles, but they're using for the hills.
Right. So obviously, if that was state property stuff.
Yeah, I would think so.
You could go up there in the wintertime.
But now, yeah, but I think now a lot of those roads are closed off. That you can't get through a lot of those places.
How popular was the Pinnacle in your day?
It was quite popular.
Place to go.
Yeah, it was quite popular.
Could you camp overnight up there?
Not that I know of.
So,
no.
Well, the fireplace was probably used a lot more in the winter than the summer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because it was a snow. It was quite a big building.
How big was it?
I mean, it would fit the top. I couldn't tell you now. Maybe 100 feet or something like from here or across the road, about like
huge.
that. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't small, but it was fun.
I got to back up for one question.
Yeah.
You owned a Jeep. How did you ever get a hold of the Jeep? Could you get them easily in those days?
Well, my husband had his ways. He was always shopping in used car lots.
Oh, okay.
And he was a mechanic.
Now, we should mention that your husband is, who was your husband?
Lyle McArthur.
Lyle McArthur.
Yeah.
Okay. His parents' name?
His parents' name was Jenny and Dan McArthur.
So you must.
And they owned that. They lived in the Hadley Hills.
Okay. So your connection to Ortonville is obvious that you came back with your.
Yeah. I've been here. Yeah.
Well, now that you got here.
Oh well, I can say that they're the most wonderful people in a small town that would treat somebody from New York the way they did me, because they even had me as a substitute clerk, village clerk, and the election board was cute when we had election day. And you'd go out and yell, you were trying to get people to come in and vote because you might have 13 people. Well, the village was, I think, about 700 population, little over 700. So it's a typical small town.
Do you think that being a war bride, because I guess that's what you were, is that true?
Well, whatever.
Sort of. Did people know that your husband's away at service? Did that help, or were they just friendly because they were just friendly?
No, there was so many others that were, that was in the same situation, and everybody handled it themselves.
So you leave the streets of Brooklyn.
Uh-huh.
And, you don't have an accent at all, or did you
Oh,
ever?
no, I think mostly. I lost it when I was switchboard operator in New York, and I know the first job that I had pushed it was in the office. I pushed the elevator to go down, and I'm leaning against the wall, just sloppy kind of. And this woman, one of the ladies from the office comes out, she looks at me and she said, Miss Waltonen, are you holding up the building? And that's the last time I ever leaned up against the wall. You get the message right there.
Now, you mentioned that you were a switchboard operator.
Oh, the old plugs,
Everybody
yeah.
gets cell phones now.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they've seen movies where everybody's plugging everybody in.
Yeah,
Maybe you can explain how hard that was.
Especially when I worked in this newspaper office, when I'm trying to plug, you know, especially certain times, because you're trying to get the newspaper out at a certain time, and you got your ads and all that. When you get done, you look, did I do that? And here you are trying to figure out which way this plug is going. You're trying to get this one out so you don't.
You'd basically have to put one connection into another connection so
Oh,
people
yeah,
could
yeah.
talk to each other.
You take the one that's calling in and take the other one for the office.
So in a busy day, you'd go crazy.
It's busy. I loved it. I loved it.
So you've been raised in New York, all these cities and buildings around you,
Mm-hmm.
and you come to what essentially is a farm.
It's a small country, and it never bothered me one bit, even to the old-fashioned, what would you call them, war morning stove,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to put the coal in and stuff like that. I didn't have trouble with that either.
No, you were pioneer.
Even the outhouse I handled too.
You had an outhouse here?
Oh, yeah,
Oh my!
that was back then.
How did that set, especially the wintertime? That got a little cold, didn't it?
It was cold, but I never had problems. Some people have problems when they go back.
My dad always used to say they try to sleep through the morning so they wouldn't have to worry about it when they got to school.
Yeah, you didn't have time to read a Sears catalog either.
Oh, so you got here, and here's this sort of country.
This
kind
beautiful
of thing.
country.
And it was obviously.
And these beautiful people.
And you made a choice, obviously, to stay the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah.
You've been here ever since. So
right.
that says a lot about the community.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, from that standpoint. And your husband came back from the war.
Yeah. And we just, we stayed. The folks had passed away in the meantime, and he decided not to stay in the General Motors. He wanted to be his own boss, so he opened up his own business and then mechanic, you know, and pumping and painting cars and stuff like that.
Right here in town?
Right in town.
What was the name of his company?
Pardon?
What was the name of his company?
McArthur Welding and whatever, you know. It's strictly small town.
Yeah. Well, no, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
We've got you now into Ortonville, and so what I want to do is take a little break.
Yeah.
And we'll come back and talk after the break.
Yeah.
And, Hi, we're back talking more about Ortonville. Millie McArthur, and
We'll
be back Millie, you've given us a
Yeah.
lot of insight about New York.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've come back to this. You and your husband have come back after the war. You're opened up a welding shop in the community and stuff like that. You went to work for the schools at one point. Am I correct?
Who?
You went to work for the schools at one point?
So I didn't go to school here.
No, you went to work for the schools.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. You worked for the schools for about, you said 14 years.
Yeah, I was the lady that run the kitchen. She called and she came over and asked me if I would like to, you know, work at the school. I could always use some extra money. So I said, sure, you know. And the kids were going to school at the same time. By the way, I have the son and the daughter, Tom and Nancy. Dan and Nancy. Tom is my son-in-law.
Okay.
Okay.
Are they still in the community here?
Tom and Nancy are here. That's her husband.
Okay.
And my son's in Tennessee now.
Oh, cool. So you ended up at the school.
Yeah, we went into school, and we had there was a first grade, the elementary, and then junior high. That was early school, you know, and even high school. But it was cute the way I used to get some of those kids to do what I want them to do, and they'll leave a mess, you know, and I would know, how did I want to put it now? Oh, that's just like somebody's doing their washing. So you soak it if it's extra dirty, you know. And the high school kids come in one day and they usually left a mess, and I don't like picking up their mess, you know. So they stood there and they looked at this. I slapped it with water, the whole table. And they stood there and looked at that and said, Millie, how are we going to eat? And I said, you know, your mother used to sew clothes before she washed them to get the dirt off. So I'm beating you to the punch. No. Then they said, well, how are we going to eat? And I said, here. And I threw them a towel, dry it up, and sit down.
You're a tough old bird.
Oh, oh, hey, I played ball. I played, like I said, handball and baseball and tennis and stuff. And some of the cartons of milk I would throw at them, and they would, they would try to hit the wastebasket with the empty one. And I said, no, you better do better than that. Then, and then I'll throw them another one. And then they'll. I mean, it was just game. It was a game with me, and the kids enjoyed it too.
Now, the food you served then, with all of the federal requirements now,
yeah,
you have to have vitamins, you have to all this, kind of stuff. Sometimes kids complain that the food's kind of bland.
Well, we made most of our own food then. Now it all comes in. Half the stuff is frozen chicken and frozen this and that. But back then we did most of our own cooking.
Was that easier or harder?
Well, you didn't have as many kids, for one thing. That made a difference too.
Did a lot of kids carry their lunches in those days?
It was good. I don't know how they like them now, but I watch the kids when they bring lunches from home, and how they'll stand there and throw a sandwich away and throw this away. And I said, it's a shame, because you try to tell the kids there are other kids that are starving, and here you are throwing these good sandwiches away that your mother made. And they look at me, and then I tell the women, I said, give them, they're going to be coming home and having a good supper. So give them something that they like to eat and that they can enjoy,
What was your favorite meal to cook when you were a cook?
I didn't cook.
Okay.
I was a warden.
Oh, you were a warden. So you had to kind of oversee the...
Yeah. And the kids with their apples, they had those things that you can slice down and it makes little wedges.
Right.
And the kids used to make such a mess. I used to take a knife, a beautiful, delicious apple, and I'd take the knife and go down sideways, and you cut right through the core. You can see the beautiful, perfect star with those little rays, Boy, those kids would eat every single bit of that apple. And then the mothers would say, what's so-and-so talking about? A star. So I have to tell them about the apples.
I'm sure there was a lot of kids that came through this school that knew you and better sit upright and do what they're supposed to.
Oh, yeah, I even have some of the high school kids that have their own kids. I mean, the kids that graduated, they had their kids like Halloween night. They come for trick-or-treat, and they say, Millie, look, see what I got. And here they got their own son. Yeah, and that house is so small. It's so nice because the kids will walk by, and they go right by, and I've taken the storm window off the door so I wouldn't have to open the extra door to pass the candy out. And I'll yell at them, and they'll come back, and I didn't know this was here, because the house is set between Davis's old building and the hardware.
We should point out that you're one of the only people really living in downtown Ortonville.
Oh no, and right across the street was Jenny Saunders.
Right, but I'm saying most of the other homes in the community are off the way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you're really downtown.
Yeah, but why they passed me? Because they're in a hurry to pass the stores to get to the houses, to the homes, just a little up the street.
How long have you lived there?
Well, since '44.
That's the first house
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You've seen downtown change then a great deal.
Yes, I have.
When you first moved there was a hotel on the corner.
Oh, the hotel. Yeah. My husband, speaking of the hotel, my husband, he was on the fire department, the volunteer fireman. Mm-hmm. And I was just calling him because he got this job as night dispatcher for the sheriff's department over on the Grange Hall Road and the Dixie when they first opened up there. And the call came in on the fire phone, and I picked it up, and it was said that there was a fire over to the hotel. And I called my husband, and I said, you better get up. You got to go to work. But I said, I'm going to go up to the corner to see what the fire was about. Well, by that brown cupola that was on the front door, over the front door at the top of the building. When I got to the corner, smoke was coming out from around that cupola already.
Oh, my gosh. And that's the day the hotel burned down.
Yeah, oh, that was really something because here I'm just, like from here to there to that
feet.
fire, and I could see the windows blow out with the heat. And my brother-in-law was the one that was taking pictures, and I mean, he took a lot of pictures. And when he came home from work, which is around 2 o'clock, or no, he came home earlier that night. Anyway, he took pictures of it. That a lot of his pictures is in the mill. And
What did the hotel burning down mean? Was it devastating to the community, or was it just one of those things that was?
I really, well.
What do you remember? What did it mean?
What do I remember? I remember that with the auxiliary, we used to have we would cook like the bowlers or the Rotary Club. If they have dinners, we would go there to the hotel and cook dinners, and the hotel was always busy with people and upstairs, and I didn't spend much time in there except when I had to go in to help with that.
We were told that the food in there was real good.
There was food, yeah.
And it was real solid. I mean, people really liked to come from all over the place.
Well, probably back when they used to do a lot of cooking, yes. But when I came, I suppose it had slowed down a lot. And I know Betty Owen, Stuart Owen's wife, Bud Owen's wife, she had a beauty parlor downstairs.
Well, she did.
Yeah.
Now, when you got here, there was also some talk, some conversation. I guess there was two or three grocery stores down.
Right downtown, right next to me. There was the hardware, and then the grocery store, and then the post office. The post office was there too.
And again, for people who have conception of size, we didn't have Beaky downtown. It was
right.
They were small, dry good type stores.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you had to.
And I really enjoyed it because all I needed was to run over and get what I needed, my groceries and the hardware.
Well, especially living in New York, you didn't grocery shop the way you do now once a week.
Yeah,
in those days,
but and grocery stores was right near us. This was in Brooklyn.
Right, but even in Brooklyn, you'd almost shop for your food every day.
No.
No?
Well, my mother did. She did a lot of fresh vegetables. We never had canned stuff.
Right, that's what I mean.
And I don't remember my mother ever canning anything either because we always had fresh vegetables, and whatever we needed, we just went to the store to get it. Especially the dairy, always got our butter, farm butter, and it was because you got the stuff from Long Island, and we had most of the stuff that was homegrown.
Well, when I lived in New York, there was always little shops in the.
This is earlier days.
No, I understand.
Like it is now.
But I would always shop every day. If I wanted a steak, I'd go buy a steak. If I wanted shrimp, I'd go buy shrimp. I didn't go buy a bunch of food and put it in the refrigerator because there wasn't any space.
Right.
You didn't have refrigerator, freezers, and things of that nature.
But my mother would she get enough to cook a good big meal, and
What's been, in your mind, what's been the biggest change downtown in 30 or 40 years? Did you think at one point it would be bigger retail-wise? Or?
No, because I didn't think it would be. For one thing, a lot of towns have bigger streets. They have more parking, and look like Oxford. What Oxford's done, back behind the stores, they've got it. Right. And thank goodness I had the alley behind me, so you can get around it. Right. And I don't think there's much, except that people like to go out of town. They like to do their weekly shopping, so they go to Myers or Beaton or someplace like that. And with vehicles, hey, go where you want to go.
Yeah, society's changed that way.
Yeah, and it's just like with my daughter, after church, we go out to have breakfast. It's never in town. It's never around. We're always going someplace different.
I think with M15, when they put M15 through, and it was off the track, so to speak.
Yeah.
If M15 would have come right through downtown Ortonville, it may have developed differently.
That was the first thing I noticed when I came to Ortonville. It was at night, and we're coming up in 15, And my husband said, well, here's Ortonville, And all I could see is this valley. It looked just like a valley, and just the street lights. That's all you can see. Nothing, though, you're looking up, at a town that's up on the hill. But here's this town right here in the valley.
And you had the mill pond. The
Oh,
pond
and there's
was
the mill pond, yeah.
That obviously is gone.
And that was gone. Oh, yeah, that was gone.
And it changed the look of downtown.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah.
Now you can put baseball fields in.
No, yeah, right. And it's a wet a wet football field.
Yeah, it's well, it used to be a swamp. I mean,
oh yeah.
Baseball field's
That's
always
why.
green because you can grow rice there, I suppose.
Definitely.
From that standpoint. Now, what did you do as a younger? Where did you gravitate? You said you did a lot of things out of town. You and your husband would entertain. Did you go Flint way or did you go Pontiac direction?
What we did was get in the Jeep with the kids, and we go up the Hadley Hills. And he'd always go, because he grew up there,
right.
and we'd go through a field, and he'd say, well, we'd be going up and down these hills, with this Jeep. And he'd be in the middle of this field, and he'd say, I knew there was a hole in this fence. There was a gate in this fence. Where is it now? He's looking around. And all of a sudden he said, there it is, but it's got a great big tree in it. That's how many years it'd been since.
You've been there.
Yeah.
You guys had a Jeep, and you were kind of the first four-wheeling family.
Yeah, well, even Nancy, when she'd come home from school, I go pick her up, and they come, and we'd take the Jeep, and I'd take all these girls for a ride up in the hills and stuff. It's a wonder I didn't lose any by going over a log, bouncing.
But to have a four-wheel drive
It was four-wheel drive.
When obviously there wasn't much out there.
Yeah.
You guys could have gone all over heck and just had a heck of a time.
It was fun. Like I said, they all enjoyed it. And my son used to use that for school, for parades. He'd decorate it, and all the kids would get in there. And
was it an old Willys Jeep, or was it an old Army Jeep?
It was just a plain old Army Jeep.
Wow.
I like them better than they do the new ones.
Yeah. Well, they were certainly...
You can get in and out of them. It's just like, I'd like to get in and out of a vehicle without crawling in and out. That's why I got my pickup.
I hear you.
That's my baby.
Is it? It's easy to get in and out of, is it?
Oh, definitely.
Cool.
I don't like a small car.
We're going to wrap up in just a second.
Yeah.
We'll be back in just a moment. Back talking with Millie McArthur. Mr. McArthur, we appreciate all the stories you're telling us. Maybe you can reminisce a little bit about maybe some of the people you know. I mean, obviously, you've made a choice to spend your life here when you came from Brooklyn. And you must have loved it here.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm sure a lot of that had to do with the people.
With the people. How would I say that you couldn't, they're like Featherston's, and I say every time I'm writing a card, it's all my family. And when I'm sending thank you notes for when things have happened at my home, it's my family that's, they help me. It just, the Fletchers and like I say, Featherston's and the Saunders and they all just like, that's how they treat me.
I don't want to sound corny, but and every town thinks its own community is the best, and they should. But this really is a special place. This really is a terrific place because of the people that are here.
Yeah.
You're in trouble, they help you. They don't ask questions; they just help you.
Yeah.
And that's been that way since I grew up here, and since that's the way since you've been here.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
And if they happen to come by and you're in trouble, boy, they're there to help. Yeah. And it's just like when my husband's garage burned down. It's unbelievable how they were there, and I mean all those people that came to, when we laid the cement floor, and I happened to be taking movie pictures of some of them, just. You didn't do that. You didn't do that. He said, I'm not supposed to be working. It was, well, I thought, I felt so bad about that. And here he's got perspiration coming down his forehead, and he's not supposed to be working because he was getting unemployment or compensation from some place.
Okay, well, that's okay. You gotta pay
I
the
hope
bills
I didn't
too.
say the wrong thing.
No. government had a couple bucks. It doesn't
But
matter.
it just, and then, of course, we do our own thing, too. I know my husband, he had got a couple of bikes from a junkyard, and he made a tandem bike out of it. And the kids, both Danny and Nancy, they just loved it. And they come down Cedar Street, and Mark Swain was still alive then. And he come out there, and he says, hey, I used to have one like that. I used to have one like that. And here's my son is sitting in the back seat, and my daughter's in the front, and he's making her do all the work, all the pedaling. And it was cute.
Not that
But it
matters,
was a
but
beautiful bike.
on a two-person bike, if the person in the front does all the work?
Huh?
The person in the front on a two-person
Oh,
bike
yeah,
does all
yeah,
the work? I never knew that. I always thought it was equal.
Well, it was the way he fixed it, you know. And I mean, if we needed something, we made it.
Listen, we're certainly going to have you back in a few weeks. We appreciate your stories. You're a terrific lady. And the insight that you've given us is this is going to be a very good interview, and we appreciate your time.
Okay.
So thank you very
Well,
much.
just as long as people don't fall asleep listening.
They won't fall asleep, I promise you that. This has been Greg Norman with Conversations in History, and we would like to thank again Millie McArthur.
I let time go lightly when I'm here with you. I let time go lightly when the day is through. I keep a watch on time when I've got work to do. But I let time